What is life like for a Vietnamese person who moves from the countryside to the city? What do they leave behind? What do they bring with them? And what are they really looking for? Hi, I'm Kong. I'm 34 years old and I was born in a small farming village in the Red River Delta of Vietnam. Today I'm leaving. Let me show you what that looks like. It is early morning. The air is still cool. I am standing at the edge of a rice field. The soil is wet. The water is shallow and still. And the season is just beginning. This is the start of a new planting cycle. Farmers here call it the beginning of hope. You press a seed into the ground and you wait. You water it. You protect it. And maybe, after months of work, you harvest something. My neighbor is using a machine today. It pumps air and shoots the rice seeds across the field in an even layer, fast, precise. One person can cover a large area in just a few hours. But in the field next to him, my aunt is doing it by hand. She moves slowly, carefully. Her wrist flicks just slightly with each throw. The seeds scatter in a wide arc, landing at the right distance from each other. Not too close, not too far. This is a skill that takes years to learn. And in my village, it has always been the women who do this work. In Vietnam, rice farming isn't just about food, it is identity. My village in the Red River Delta has been growing wet rice for many generations. We have no craft villages here, no factories nearby, no industrial zones. For as long as anyone can remember, this land has only known one thing: lúa nuoc, wet rice. I was born into that world. My grandfather farmed this land. My father farmed this land. And for many years, so did I. When I look at my aunt's hands moving across the field this morning, I see something I have watched my whole life. There is no wasted motion, no hurry, just steady, quiet work, seed after seed, row after row. For many people like me, growing up in a farming village means learning early that results take time. You cannot rush a rice field. You plant, and then you wait for the season to do its work. Inside our house, in the center of the main room, there is a glass cabinet. It holds many things: old documents, small keepsakes, and photographs. This one stops me every time. It was taken about 15 years ago when I was still a university student. My grandfather is in the center. This was his longevity celebration, his 80-year birthday. In Vietnam, local authorities officially recognize elderly people when they turn 70, 80, 90, and 100 years old. The village gathers. There are flowers, incense, and red envelopes. It is a moment of great respect. Standing beside my grandfather is his eldest daughter. And the man in the black suit, that is my father. My father was a quiet man, a hard-working man, a farmer his whole life. But a few years ago, something changed. He began to struggle. Depression came slowly. Then it came all at once. My family brought him to many hospitals, many doctors. We tried everything we knew how to try, but the illness kept getting worse. In March 2024, my father passed away. He took. I will not say more than that. Some pain does not need many words. What I will say is this: he was a good man, a gentle man. He grew rice, raised his children, and never asked for much. I do not understand why this illness chose him. I probably never will. After he passed, the house became very quiet. My mother stayed for 1 year. Then the grief became too heavy for these walls. She moved to Hanoi to find work, to find a new environment, to live the rest of her life somewhere she could breathe again. I stayed behind. I continued working at a factory in an industrial zone about 20 kilometers from home. My salary was 7.5 million dong per month, about 290 US dollars. Let me show you where that money goes. Transportation and fuel, about $30. Electricity and water, $20. Food, $70. Personal items, $30. Social obligations, weddings, funerals, visiting the sick, about $40 each month. At the end of the month, I could save between $50 and $80. Not much, but enough to survive. I tended the rice fields my parents left behind. I kept the house. I stayed. But slowly a question grew louder in my mind. My father is gone. My mother is already in the city. The fields are still here. The house is still here. But why am I still here? After more than 2 years, I finally had an answer. It was time to go. Before I leave, I walk through the house one more time. Slowly, room by room. My parents started building this house in 1993. I was 1 year old. I have no memory of it being built. But I have spent every single year of my life inside these walls. Over the decades, my family repaired it, upgraded it, made it better piece by piece. The floor is now tiled with patterned stone. There are 2 bedrooms, a television, a refrigerator, a proper kitchen, a bathroom. For a farming family in rural Vietnam, this house represents decades of work. I run my hand along the wall. The paint is fading in places. The corners show their age, but everything is clean. Everything is cared for. My mother made sure of that, even in her hardest years. I stop in front of an old motorbike. This is a Honda Dream. If you know Vietnamese history, you know what this motorcycle means. For an entire generation, the Honda Dream was not just transportation. It was a symbol. Having one meant you had made it. It meant your family was moving forward. My father bought this bike with his own hands, not from farming. He went to Malaysia in 2003. He worked there for 2 years, 2003 to 2005, as a construction worker, far from home, far from his family, far from these fields. When he came back, he brought this motorcycle with him. I look at it now and I think he left once too. He went far, worked hard, came home with something to show for it. Maybe that is what I'm trying to do. Further back, near the old kitchen, I find tools, a pesticide sprayer, a hoe, a spade, rope, old baskets. These are not decorations. These objects fed my family. Every scratch on the metal, every worn handle. That is years of early morning and long afternoons in the field. My father's hands held all of these. And then I see it. 2 badminton rackets, leaning against the wall, slightly dusty. My father and I used to play badminton together. Not at a court, not with proper equipment. Just the 2 of us, in the yard, in the late afternoon when the heat started to fade. It was nothing special. It was everything. I do not pick up the racket. I just look at it for a moment. In Vietnam, we do not always say I love you directly. We show it in small things. In meals prepared early in the morning, in a motorbike bought after 2 years of hard labor abroad, in a badminton game after a long day in the field. That racket is one of the clearest memories I have of my father. Simple but irreplaceable. And yet, without my father here, without my mother here, the house feels like a photograph of itself. All the objects are present. But the life that made them meaningful, that has already moved on. Maybe that is why I need to move on too. Outside, the sun is already strong. I walk into the yard and look up at the longan tree. My father planted this tree years ago. I do not remember exactly when. I was too young. But I remember watching it grow. First a thin trunk, then branches, then, slowly, fruit. This year, the tree is full. The branches hang heavy with clusters of longan. The leaves are thick and dark green. Every branch is loaded. When longan is ripe, the skin turns a dry, sandy brown. You crack it open with your thumb and find white, translucent flesh inside, firm, juicy, very sweet. This tree in particular, the fruit is sweeter than most I have tasted from the market. My father knew how to choose the right tree. He knew how to take care of it. He watered it during dry seasons, pruned it at the right time, let it grow slowly and steadily. I will not be here to eat the fruit this year. Someone else will harvest it. Maybe the neighbors. That is fine. My father always shared. I turn to the flower pots near the wall. There are several of them, different sizes, different plants, green leaves, a few with small blooms. My father planted all of these. Every morning I water them. It has become a habit over the past 2 years. A small, quiet ritual that I do without thinking. Pick up the watering can. Walk from pot to pot. Pour slowly. Check the soil. Move on. Today the sun is harsh. The heat came early this morning, and by now the leaves on some of the plants are already drooping, wilting slightly at the edges. They are thirsty. As I pour the water, I think about the fact that after today, no one will do this. I cannot take the plants with me. I cannot ask someone to water them every day. And the pots are too heavy to move to a neighbor's house. So I water them extra carefully today. I make sure the soil is fully soaked. I move slowly, pot by pot, the way my father must have done when he first planted them. And I think, maybe the rain will come. The rainy season is not far away. In a few weeks, the afternoon storms will start. Heavy, sudden, the kind that soaks everything in minutes. The plants will get water. Not every day, not with the care of someone who loves them, but enough. Maybe that is sufficient. In Vietnam, there is a quiet expectation that the natural world will continue without us. Farmers understand this more than anyone. You tend the field, but you do not control the rain. You plant the seed, but you do not make it grow. You do your part, and then you let go. I am trying to learn how to do that. Not just with the plants, with everything, with the house, with the fields, with the life I built here over 34 years. I set down the watering can. The leaves are still drooping a little. The water takes time to travel down to the roots. By this afternoon, they will straighten again. By tomorrow, they will look fine. I will not be here to see that, but I know it will happen. And somehow, that is enough. For many people who leave their hometown, there is always something they carry that cannot fit in a suitcase. Not a physical object, something closer to a feeling, a morning routine, the smell of a familiar yard, the sound of water pouring into a clay pot. These small things, they travel with you whether you pack them or not. I take one last look at the pots, the longan tree, the yard that has held so many ordinary mornings. Simple, but deeply mine. At the far end of the garden, there is a jackfruit tree, big trunk, white branches, fruit hanging directly from the bark, the way jackfruit always grows, heavy and low, close to the ground. My father planted this tree too. Every year when the jackfruit ripens, my family does the same thing. We do not eat it alone. We call the neighbors. We bring out a mat, sit together in the shade and share, segment by segment, laughing and talking. The neighbors bring something too, maybe sugarcane juice, maybe fresh rice cakes. That is how it works in my village. You do not celebrate alone. You share what you have, and what comes back to you is something better than fruit. That is what I love about my culture. This year, the tree is full again, heavy with fruit. My father is not here to see it, but the tree is still doing what he planted it to do. I decide to bring one jackfruit to Hanoi for my mother. She has not had jackfruit from this tree since she moved to the city. But now I have a problem. I do not know how to choose a jackfruit. I stand in front of the tree for a long time. I knock on one fruit with my knuckle. I have seen experienced people do this. A ripe one is supposed to sound hollow, but to me, they all sound the same. I press the skin lightly with my thumb. I check the spines on the outside. Older fruit has softer, more spread out spines, or so I have heard. I smell the base near the stem. Nothing conclusive. I am a man who grew up next to this tree his whole life, and I cannot pick a jackfruit. My father would have known in 10 seconds. After a long inspection, I choose the one that looks the oldest, biggest, heaviest. The stem looks dry. The spines are slightly more open. I think this is the right one. I hope this is the right one. I carry it carefully. It is not light. Inside the house, in the main room, there is an altar. In Vietnamese culture, this altar is not decoration. It is not symbolic in a distant, abstract way. It is a living connection between those who are here and those who are gone. Before any important event in a Vietnamese household, you come to this altar first, before a wedding, before a long journey, before starting a new job, before making a major decision. You light incense, you stand quietly, and you speak, not out loud necessarily, but from somewhere inside you, to your ancestors. You ask for permission, you ask for protection. This practice is called the Kung Tu Tien, ancestral worship, but that translation does not quite capture it. It is less about worship and more about relationship. The belief is that those who have passed are not entirely gone. They are present in a different form, and they care about what happens to the family they left behind. The incense sticks are thin and dark red. When you light them, the tip glows orange for a moment, then fades to a soft, steady smoke. The smoke rises slowly. It carries your words upward, or so the belief goes. The scent is warm and slightly sweet. Sandalwood, usually. It is one of the most familiar smells of my childhood. The prayers, the Khan, follow a specific structure. There is a traditional format, passed down from elders to younger generations, or available in small printed booklets sold at markets and temples. You state who you are. You name the occasion. You explain what you are about to do, and you ask for blessing and guidance. Older generations know these prayers by heart. My generation, we sometimes read from a paper. There is no shame in that. What matters is the intention, not the performance. Is it the same in your country? Do you have a moment before a big decision, a prayer, a ritual, a pause, where you ask something larger than yourself for guidance? Maybe it looks different. Maybe it is a church, a temple, a quiet conversation with someone you have lost, but I think the feeling is universal. The need to say, I am about to do something important. Please, help me not to fail. I light 8 incense sticks. I hold them with both hands, at chest level, and I bow slightly, and then I speak to my father. I tell him that I am leaving today, that I am going to Hanoi, that I am going to find work, build something, take care of mother. I tell him that I have thought about this for a long time, that it is not an easy decision, that I am a little afraid. I ask him to support me. In Vietnamese, the word is ủng hộ. It means more than just approval. It means active encouragement, standing behind someone, cheering them forward even when you cannot walk beside them. I ask my father to be smart for me. In the moments when I cannot think clearly, I ask him to protect me when things get difficult. I ask him to watch over this house, these fields, this yard, while I am away. The incense smoke rises in a thin, steady line. The room is very quiet. I do not cry. I stand still and breathe slowly, the way you do when you are trying to hold something together that wants to come apart. My father was 38 years old when he went to Malaysia. He left this same village, this same house, and traveled to a foreign country where he did not speak the language, to do physical labor in the heat, so that he could come home with enough money to buy a motorbike and fix the roof. I think about that now, standing in front of his photograph on the altar. He was not afraid to leave, or maybe he was afraid, and he went anyway. I never asked him. I wish I had asked him many things. Now it is time. I walk through the house one final time, checking each room. I close the windows. I turn off the lights. I make sure the gas is off in the kitchen. I check the back door. I check the side door. Each lock makes a small, definitive sound. Click, click, click. Finally, I stand at the front door. The main entrance. The door my parents walked through thousands of times. The door I walked through on my first day of school, and on the day I came home from university, and on the morning after my father's funeral, when the world felt like it had shifted permanently to one side. I lock it. I put the key in my pocket, and I stand there for a moment, hand still on the door, not quite ready to turn around. Then I do. But before I reach the road, something pulls me in a different direction. I leave my suitcase at the gate and walk out to the rice field. I need to see it one more time. The field is wet and still. The seedlings from this morning's planting have settled into the water, small, fragile, just beginning. I stand at the edge and look out across it. When I was a child, I spent entire afternoons out here, not always working, sometimes just wandering, following my father as he checked the water level in the paddies, chasing dragonflies along the irrigation ditches, lying in the grass at the edge of the field, when I was supposed to be helping but was too young to be useful. In the evenings, other children would come out to fly kites. The sky above these fields would fill with them. Bright shapes moving high up, strings invisible from the ground. And from somewhere you could always hear the sound of a bamboo flute attached to a kite, singing in the wind. Tien Sao Dieu, the kite flute. That sound is one of the first things I remember from childhood. I cannot hear it now. The field is quiet today, just wind. Just water, just the sound of my own breathing. There used to be a buffalo too. When I was young, my family kept one. I would take it out to the field in the late afternoon, let it graze along the edges, walk it home before dark. A slow animal, patient, strong. We no longer have one. Machines have replaced that work. But I still remember the weight of the rope in my hand. The sound of the animal moving through the grass. That world is gone now, not just for me, for this entire generation. I look at the field for a long time, then I walk back to the gate. On the road through the village, I pass people I have known my whole life. An older woman who used to give me fruit when I was small. A man who farms the field next to ours. A group of children on bicycles. I tell them I am leaving for Hanoi. They nod. Some smile. One woman says, "Go well. Come back when you can." I say I will. I cannot bring my motorbike to the city. There is no space. No plan yet for where I will park it. And honestly, I do not know enough about Hanoi streets to ride confidently yet. So I am leaving it here with my cousin. He is a farmer, steady, hardworking, the kind of person who wakes up before sunrise every day without complaining. His most recent harvest was 3 tons of rice for a small family farm in rural Vietnam. That is a good result. It means the season went well. It means the family will be stable for a while. When he heard I was moving to Hanoi, he did not ask many questions. He just said, "Come here before you leave." I went to his house, and he handed me several dozen kilograms of rice. "This is a new variety," he said. "The grains are soft and fragrant when cooked. Take it with you. That way you don't have to spend money buying rice in the city." I looked at the bag. In Hanoi, a kilogram of decent rice costs about 20,000 to 25,000 dong, roughly $1. Several dozen kilograms means I will not need to buy rice for 2 or 3 months. For someone starting over with very little savings, that matters more than it sounds. But it is not only about the money, it is about the gesture. A farmer giving rice, his own harvest, grown with his own hands on his own land, that is not a small thing. That is something given from the most essential part of his life. I told him I would pay him back. When I find work in the city, when I start earning, I will send money for his children's school fees. He waved his hand. "Don't worry about that now. Focus on getting settled first." The bus is a 16-seater minivan. Today, there are only 5 or 6 passengers. The seats are mostly empty. People sit scattered, not next to each other, the way strangers do when they have space to choose. Everyone looks tired. Some are already asleep before we even leave the station. A woman in the back has a bag on her lap that she holds with both hands, even while resting. An older man stares out the window at nothing in particular. I take a seat in the front row, on the left side next to the window. I want to watch the road. The highway is smooth, wide, well-marked. 10 years ago, this road was different, narrower, more crowded. The journey from my village to Hanoi took longer and felt harder. But Vietnam has invested heavily in transportation infrastructure over the past decade. New expressways connect cities that once felt far apart. The journey from the Red River Delta to Hanoi is now faster and more comfortable than it has ever been. I have heard that the government has set an economic growth target of over 10% for this year. 10%. That is an ambitious number. But when I look out this window, at the new roads, the construction cranes, the factories being built along the highway, I start to believe it. For people like me, that number is not just a statistic. It is a reason. A growing economy means more jobs. More jobs mean more chances. More chances mean that a 34-year-old man from a farming village with a worn suitcase and no connections in the city might still find a place for himself. That is what I am betting on. Vietnam's traffic used to be known internationally for its chaos. If you search on YouTube, you can still find old videos of foreigners reacting with shock to Vietnamese intersections. Motorbikes going in every direction, no one following the signals, the road looking more like a river than a street. I watched some of those videos myself. I understood why foreigners were shocked. But things have changed. Vietnam introduced stricter traffic laws in recent years. The fines are serious. Running a red light on a motorbike now carries a penalty of 6 to 8 million dong. On a car, 18 to 20 million dong. Let me put that in context. The average monthly salary for a factory worker in Vietnam is around 7 to 8 million dong. So a single traffic violation can cost you an entire month's wages, sometimes more. When the consequence is that real behavior changes, and it has. I see it every day now. People waiting at red lights in the midday heat, when there are no cars coming, when crossing would be easy and quick, they still wait, because the risk is too high. I think those foreign YouTubers would be surprised if they came back today. Vietnam is not the same country it was 5 years ago. The bus slows and pulls off the highway. We stop at the small fuel station. The driver climbs out, stretches, and signals to the attendant. A few passengers get off to use the restroom or buy water. I stay in my seat and watch. The attendant fills the tank efficiently. Then, without being asked, he reaches into a cooler beside the pump and hands the driver 2 small bottles of water. Cold. A small gift. Diesel fuel today is priced at 25,000 dong per liter. That works out to roughly 94,000 dong per gallon, about $3.60 USD. The driver mentioned to me earlier that when fuel prices doubled a couple of years ago, everything became harder. Passengers complained about higher fares. Operating costs rose. Revenue dropped. For small transport operators with thin margins, a fuel price spike can be the difference between staying open and closing down. Today, the price is manageable. The driver seems calm. We get back on the highway. A second driver takes over. They alternate on long routes to stay alert. Fresh hands on the wheel. Outside, construction is everywhere. New overpasses, new commercial buildings, new apartment blocks rising from empty land, scaffolding, cranes, the skeletal frames of things not yet finished. Vietnam is building itself, visibly, quickly, all at once. And somewhere in all of that construction, I am hoping there is a small space for me. The highway narrows slightly as we enter the outer ring of Hanoi. Traffic thickens. More motorbikes, more delivery vehicles. The energy changes, louder, faster, more compressed. I lean forward in my seat. The city is getting closer. One young man, one worn suitcase, one jackfruit from home, and a quiet, careful hope. Careful.
Đâm ngang à? À, đâm ngang.
Đúng ở cửa bên
phụ à?
Ông bên lái này luôn.
The bus stops at a point on the outskirts of Hanoi, not the city center, not the busy streets with the tall glass buildings and the coffee shops and the hotels. This is a quieter zone, residential, ordinary, slightly removed from the noise of the inner city. I climb out with my suitcase and the jackfruit. I stand on the pavement and look around. The street is wide but not crowded. A few motorbikes pass. Some small shops line the road. A pharmacy, a tea stall, a place selling phone accessories. Across the road, there is a small park, trees, a few benches, some older residents sitting in the shade. It does not feel like the Hanoi of the travel magazines, but it feels livable, quiet, human-scaled. I check the address again on my phone. Then I look at buildings around me. There is a residential block nearby, more than 10 floors, older construction, the kind built in the 1990s or early 2000s when urban housing was expanding quickly, but budget was limited. The exterior walls are stained in places. The stairwells, I can already tell, will be narrow and dark. The corridors will smell of cooking and damp concrete. I have seen buildings like this before. Many people I know have lived in places like this. There is nothing wrong with it. It is simply what affordable urban housing looks like in Vietnam. I walk around the block slowly, checking the building numbers. When I find the right entrance, I stop. I take out my phone and call my mother. It rings twice. Con Jen Roy A. I'm here. That Con. Joy me Swong He. Really? Wait, I'm coming down? I stand by the entrance and wait. I set down the suitcase. I hold the jackfruit with both hands. I am more nervous than I expected to be. This is not the nervousness of a stranger arriving somewhere unfamiliar. It is something closer to the nervousness of wanting a moment to go well, of wanting to see someone and have them look okay. She looks smaller than 1 month ago, or maybe I just noticed her differently now. She is wearing simple clothes, the kind she had always worn, practical and unfussy. Her hair is the same, her face is the same, but her eyes, when she sees me, her eyes change. She reaches for the jackfruit before she says anything, takes it from my hands, holds it, looks at it. She knows exactly which tree it came from. She knows its smell. She knows what it means that I carried it all this way. She does not cry, neither do I. We just start walking toward the elevator together, talking about small things, the journey, the traffic, whether I ate anything on the bus. This is how my family has always handled the big moments. We talk around them. We let the ordinary conversation carry the weight of the things we cannot quite say directly. We ride up to her floor. She opens the door to the apartment. The first thing I notice is the hammock. It is strung up in the corner of the room. A simple woven hammock, the kind you see in every rural home in northern Vietnam. My mother brought it from our house in the village. In the middle of this small city apartment, surrounded by unfamiliar walls and borrowed furniture, the hammock looks completely at home. Because it is home, she made it home. There is also an old electric rice cooker on the counter. The brand label has faded from years of use. The inner pot has small scratches, but it works. She uses it every day. These two objects, the hammock and the rice cooker, tell me more about how my mother has been living than any conversation could. She carried what mattered. She left what she could, and she made do. She shows me our room, 9 square meters, 2 people, 1 room, 9 square meters. There is a bed, a small wardrobe, and a window. That is essentially everything. There is no space for much else. The apartment also has a larger shared area, a combined living room and kitchen, about 20 square meters. This space is shared with another woman, a neighbor from our home village who is also working in Hanoi. Shared kitchen, shared living space, shared bathroom. It will require adjustment. There will be small inconveniences. Timing in the kitchen, noise levels, privacy. These things are real, but I do not feel disappointed. I feel something closer to relief, because my mother is here, and the room has a window. And the window faces a park and open sky and white apartment buildings in the distance. I look out the window for a moment. The view is ordinary, completely ordinary. A road, some trees, some buildings. But the light coming through is warm. And the room, small as it is, feels like a place where something can begin. For many people who move to a big city for the first time, the first room is never the final room. It is just the starting point. The place where you sleep while you figure out the next step. The place where you are safe while the rest of the plan takes shape. This is my starting point. 9 square meters, 1 window, my mother's hammock in the corner. That is enough to begin.
Không, mà lâu không đi thấy mệt mệt nhưng mà bình thường thôi, chắc là một nghỉ một tí là khỏe. Đây mang ít vali quần áo lên đây đây. Quả mít đây gì? Con mang quả mít ở nhà lên đấy. Mít con vặt ở cây.
My mother moves around the kitchen area, opening cabinets, checking what she has. She calls out to me from the other room. Con lên bắt ngô qua me chua chuan biki. You came so suddenly. I haven't prepared anything. I call back. Kong sao jo a, choki min anai. It's fine. Whatever you have, we'll eat. And I mean it. She brings out what she has. Suitcase, Vietnamese sausages, the small, thin kind that come individually, wrapped, slightly sweet, soft in texture. They are inexpensive. A pack of several costs around 20,000 to 25,000 dong, less than $1. They are the kind of food you buy when you need something quick and filling, and you are not thinking about cooking a full meal. And sao muoi chua, salted, pickled sao fruit. Sao is a small green fruit that grows wild in northern Vietnam, slightly sour on its own, but when pickled with salt and sometimes chili, it becomes something more complex, tart, salty, with a faint sweetness underneath. My mother has kept a jar of it since we were back in the village. It is the kind of preserved food that travels well, lasts a long time, and tastes immediately of home. Rice from the cooker, sausages on a plate, the jar of pickled sao in the center. No ceremony, no presentation, just food and 2 people sitting across from each other. I eat with soy sauce, jidao, poured lightly over the rice. The rice is soft and warm. The sausage is simple. The sao is sharp and sour and cuts through everything else cleanly. It is not a special meal. By any measure, it is one of the most ordinary meals I have eaten in a long time. And yet, there is something about eating with my mother after months apart, after the long journey, after locking the door of the old house, after standing at the altar and the rice field and the jackfruit tree, that makes this bowl of rice feel like the most grounded thing I have experienced all day. I do not say this out loud, I just eat. We talk while we eat. She tells me about her job. She works nearby, something steady, not complicated. She tells me about the neighbor we share the apartment with. A good woman, quiet, no trouble. She tells me small things about the neighborhood, where to buy vegetables in the morning, which convenience store stays open late, which streets get congested at rush hour. She has already mapped this place. She has already made it navigable. My mother left the village 1 year before me. She arrived here alone, in a city she did not know well, after the hardest year of her life. And she found a room, found a job, and built a small daily routine. I watch her talk, and I think, she is stronger than she looks. For many Vietnamese mothers of her generation, life has rarely gone according to plan. They married young. They farmed. They raised children. They managed the household finances with very little. And when things fell apart, truly fell apart, the way ours did, they kept going anyway. Not dramatically, not with speeches or declarations, just quietly, practically, 1 day at a time. That is not weakness disguised as strength. That is just strength. I finish my rice. After the meal, I collect the bowls and bring them to the sink. She says I do not have to. I say I want to. I wash the bowls slowly. The water is warm. The soap smells faintly of lemon. Outside the small kitchen window, I can see the edge of the park, the tops of the trees, the sky beginning to shift toward evening. Washing dishes is perhaps the most domestic act there is. Nothing about it is interesting. Nothing about it requires thought. You rinse, you scrub, you rinse again. You set the bowl upside down on the rack and move to the next one. But sometimes, in the middle of an overwhelming day, a day full of decisions and leaving and long silences and heavy suitcases, the simplest physical task is the one that brings you back to yourself. My hands in warm water, a bowl getting clean, the sound of water running. I am here, this is real. The day is almost over. I dry my hands and look around the small apartment. The hammock in the corner, the old rice cooker, the jackfruit I carried from home sitting on the floor near the door, waiting to ripen. My suitcase, not yet unpacked, leaning against the wall. 9 square meters, 1 window. My mother in the next room. For many people who leave a farming village for the city, the first night in a new place is the hardest, not because of danger or discomfort, but because of the silence, the unfamiliar sounds, the ceiling you do not recognize in the dark. I know tonight will feel strange, but I also know that my mother is here, and the window faces east, so in the morning the light will come in early, and the jackfruit will be a little softer tomorrow, a little closer to ripe. And maybe that is how new beginnings work, not with fanfare, not with a sudden feeling of confidence or clarity. Just one day you're standing in your old kitchen, washing the same bowls you have washed for years, and the next day you're standing in a different kitchen, washing different bowls, in a city that does not know your name yet, and slowly it becomes yours. The evening settles in. The light through the window softens. The street outside grows quieter. Somewhere in the building, someone is cooking. I can smell it faintly through the walls. Rice and something savory. My mother has gone to rest. I sit alone near the window. I think about the day. The rice field this morning, just beginning its season. The altar and the thin smoke of incense. The Honda Dream parked at my cousin's house, waiting for someone to ride it. The door of our old home, locked and quiet now. And here, this small room, this window, this ordinary evening in a city I am just beginning to know. I did not choose an easy path today. I am not sure there was an easy path to choose. But I think about something I noticed on the bus, watching the construction along the highway. All those half-built structures, scaffolding, exposed concrete, frames without walls yet. A building under construction does not look like much. It looks unfinished, uncertain. Sometimes it looks like it might not work out. But the workers come back every day. They add one layer at a time. And eventually, not all at once, not dramatically, something stands. Maybe a life works the same way. You do not arrive somewhere complete. You arrive with a suitcase and a jackfruit and a room you did not choose, and then you begin. For many people like me, people who left a village, people who carry loss alongside their luggage, people who are starting over later than they planned, the beginning is never clean. It does not feel like a fresh page. It feels more like a page with old writing on it, and you are trying to find the empty space at the bottom to write something new. But there is always space at the bottom. I look out the window at the park below. The trees are still. A few streetlights have come on. The white buildings in the distance glow faintly in the early dark. Tomorrow I will wake up here for the first time. I will learn which sounds belong to this building and which belong to the street. I will figure out where to buy coffee in the morning. I will start looking for work. I will begin. My father used to say very little about big things. He was not a man of long speeches. But I remember once, when I was struggling with something at school, I cannot even remember what it was now. He said simply, "Ku lam ji, roi se tai." Just do it, then you will see. Not, it will be fine. Not, don't worry. Just do the thing, and then you will understand it better than you do now. I think that is the most honest advice anyone has ever given me. So, I am here. The day is done. Tomorrow I will just do it. And then I will see. A life does not have to be perfect to be worth living. A room does not have to be large to feel like home. And a beginning does not have to be beautiful to be real. This is mine. I'm curious. Have you ever had to leave a place that felt like your whole life? A hometown, a house, a version of yourself you had to let go of. Or maybe you're thinking about it right now, wondering whether to stay or go. Whatever your answer is, I would like to hear it. Leave it in the comments. Tell me where you're from and what you left behind, or what you are still holding on to. I will read everyone. See you in the next video.